So again, before we start, we really want to discuss with you today. So feel free to write your questions into the chat, and we are happy to involve you, right? So first question, maybe we will start with you, Björn. Can you maybe give us a quick introduction on how and why you have come to your current position as head of sustainability, and maybe also what are the drivers for you to tackle the topic of sustainability so focused?
Yeah, so as you said, first of all, thanks for the invite and the introduction. Happy to be here today. So I'm in the field of sustainability for quite some time now, first with Deutsche Post DHL, and now with EOS Group near Munich. And one of the main reasons why I have this position was that it was just newly created beginning of this year, created from the new CEO, which is the daughter of the founder of the company. And so for her, the three main topics are industrialization, digitization, but also sustainability. So there is a generation change in the company, and there's a strong interest also from the shareholders, which is the Lange family, on this topic, and they also see a big responsibility on their side. So that's one of the main drivers, because she created that position. But also there's a lot of more drivers from my perspective, because we're also talking about efficiency gains. We're talking about transparency. We're talking about business opportunities, and also an expected customer interest. It's changing a little bit now, our business, the 3D printing business, from rapid prototyping, which was there in the beginning, very much to more industrialization. So also bigger customers or bigger companies are now becoming our customers. They have their own sustainability agendas, and of course they expect from their solution providers, like EOS is one, to also support them in achieving their targets and their agendas. So it's twofold. There's an internal interest from the company, from the shareholders, but there's also external interest, external drivers, for example, from customers. So that's basically how this, how we came into this, how I came into this role.
Sounds like you have a lot to do in the upcoming months and years. And maybe personally, how did you get involved in the sustainability area?
I mean, I studied environmental sciences long years ago because I was always interested in that topic. But then, more or less by accident, I was finished when the European Trading Scheme was set up in Europe. And I happened to start at a small consultancy where we were consulting companies in the area of emission trading. And that was more or less the first time when also in Germany people talked about carbon management and product carbon footprints and all this. And from there, I went to Deutsche Post, DHL. I started at their innovation center near Cologne, or between Cologne and Bonn. And we developed, back then, we developed the first climate neutral products, actually. And that was the start of the so-called Go Green program. And then over several steps, but still always in the area of Go Green. At the end, I managed the Go Green program, which it was the global, or is still the global, environmental protection and climate protection program of DHL. And one of the big things also we were involved was the street scooter. You probably know this. It was the electric vehicle that we developed on our own because we were not able to buy one from the market. That's an interesting story, maybe also something for later, I don't know. But this was so this was my path. And after 12 years with DHL, I thought, okay, maybe it's time to do something new. And I always wanted to work for a family business, for a smaller business. This is where I am now. So that was the opportunity there. And as you said, it's correct. There's a lot to do, but it's very interesting because there's a lot of support also from the top, which is needed. There's a lot of interest from the employees. They're supporting me. They are motivated to do something there, and because it's a much smaller company than DHL, there's everything also goes a lot faster here. So
Yeah.
decisions are taking faster, and it's very interesting.
That's true. That's also from our side, point of view, basically that especially family-owned businesses tend to be more focused on these sustainability issues, right? So then, Andreas, maybe just last week I saw that Reha was nominated by Bloomberg as one of the 50 global leaders in sustainability, and as the head of sustainability at Reha, what do you think are the maybe the reasons they picked you, and what are the main tasks that you have to handle and you perceive as most challenging in your role?
Mhm. Yes, thanks first of all for the invitation. I'm glad to be here and talk about sustainability and especially circular economy. Why they picked us? Okay, it was like a draft. I got a phone call in May, and I was part of a panel discussion with Henkel and some other well-known companies on the topic of circular economy, and I think somebody of them were in the audience, in the virtual audience, and because we are not so big like Henkel or others, they got to know us there, and they saw that we have some knowledge and as well a history on circular economy, and I think that was one of the reasons why they contacted us. And I had some interviews with them, and afterwards they said, okay, we would love to have you in this leader program, and I think that was a reason. And we were one of the companies they wanted to have because we are in the plastic industry, and the plastic industry has some hard times since a couple of years, and has to redefine the business models and have to redefine, especially the way they handle sustainability. And I think the way we are doing it and what we have done in the past and what we want to do in the future, I think convince them that we are the right company for this program.
Yeah.
Yes, and the main tasks in sustainability, I think there are two main areas that you have to handle at the moment, because the job description of somebody who is leading or coordinating sustainability has changed in the past, but the main two areas are the non-financial reporting. That's what I'm doing at the moment, or finalizing at the moment for 2019. And the other part is sustainability strategy. And here, especially in our case, the shift towards a circular economy and towards closed loops in all divisions. So these are the two main fields. And the third field that is very important when it comes to sustainability is everybody knows who's in this area that we have got the three main columns: the economical and the ecological and the social pillar of sustainability. But the foundation of everything is a culture. So as a sustainability officer, you are as well somebody who is responsible for the culture. And in our situation, it is a circular culture. So to think from the end and to think in phases that are dependent on each other, and have the task to actually close the loop as best as possible. So that is what the main three tasks are of a sustainability officer. And like the name, it is a position where you coordinate and where you have cross-functional tasks in different areas, from sales to marketing to technical departments. And that's the beauty and the interesting thing of the job, as I would say.
Got it. Yeah, a lot to do. So from your perspective, for you, maybe what do you think has been the most challenging part of that?
The most challenging part, not just for us, but for industry in general, is that I just talked about the development of the job position and of sustainability itself. Sustainability nowadays is an imperative. It's not any more a trend or a mega trend, it's an imperative. So what's the main challenge to implement this imperative in the organization? So it it is step by step, definitely step by step. It needs time, but it's not just that sustainability is something independent from the rest of the company and from the rest of the strategy of the different departments and functional organizations. So that is the most challenge, because this has changed, and it's a kind of system change, a transformation that you need in the company, and that is challenging because there is pressure from different sides, and it's not always positive pressure, and that's the reason why you have to do it in a good way, in an authentic way, and then changes and transformation is possible, and we need it anyway. It's important.
True. Organizational transformation is always not an easy feat, right?
Not an easy
but I believe that, especially as I said before, family-owned businesses are in a better or in a good position there, because they make it. You believe them when they put it at the front and center of what they're doing.
Yeah.
So
just to add that, it's like with Björn. I mean, we are a family-owned business, and the support from the family, it's extraordinary, and that is the most important thing for me in this position, because we are somewhere in between very often. But when you have got the support, and you know that it's an important thing for the family and for this for their business, it's easier to take even hard and not so easy steps in the organization.
Yeah. So as we have today the Circular Economy Challenge talk, maybe Fabian, you have researched that topic with quite a lot of companies, especially about barriers. Could you give us maybe a rough overview of your findings on the barriers and challenges for implementing circular economy?
Yeah, hi everybody. We tend to divide the barriers into like external and internal barriers from a company perspective. It makes it a little bit more intuitive to understand. And what we see, if there are barriers internal, it's really hard to change something, because it starts like from the company side. If there is no commitment from the top, as already Björn and Andreas mentioned, it's quite impossible to change. So there could be some drive from bottom up, interesting initiatives, ideas, but if there is no support, no management decision going into a sustainable direction, then there is no time, there is no investment, but it's somehow clear. I think what is really interesting that the companies we looked at a lot of different SMEs in different sectors. There we see that it's interesting that these companies that are willing to change something, companies with a high awareness, where there is not really a hesitant company culture towards change, in these companies, they do it because they feel it's right. So they have the ideas, they have the initiatives, they have also bottom-up commitment from people, and they try to develop a solution. And they don't take customers or external factors like market or like customer culture somehow as an excuse for not dealing with sustainable issues. And there are companies, they are not really willing to change something, and they always take customer price preferences as an example, as an excuse for not changing. So customers they are not willing to pay like 10% more for the product or whatever the excuses are. So it's really interesting that they have they made like a shift in their perspective towards their customers, and they tend to see their own supply and the demand relationship differently.
So basically you oftentimes see that companies tend to say, okay, customers are not willing to pay for that more sustainable offering basically, and that's why they don't even try. Is that right?
So they take like some arguments from marketing or sales, and these guys say it's not possible to bring this to the customers, and then it's given. So they don't think about other solutions or how they can stimulate actually a demand for a more sustainable product. So it's quite also a linear thinking. And it's really related to what we say, the time perspective in the end. So my favorite example is a company from East Switzerland. They produce curtains and other textile equipments for a home, and they are like in the 6th or 7th generation, and they're really proud that already his, or the CEO said, his grandfather developed this kind of product, and he sees that when he goes for climbing somewhere, and he's really proud that it's still out there, and it's a long-lasting product, and it's made for ages. And so you see a time perspective towards their own products also. And so they are still believing that making a product, a really high qualitative product, is the best thing they can do. So it's coming from the top also, but they see it as a necessity to have it in their product range.
Okay, so it's about also long term, right? Not just short term profitability, etc., but the long term view there. Is that also coupled with, let's say, the challenge of financing these long term projects?
I mean, this financial issue is a really complex issue. For example, we're working together with a home appliance company here in the center of Switzerland, and they produce new products like every 10 years. So they have like a product platform, and now they're developing a new one, and we talk with them how they can probably make it more circular, that they create a circular washing machine, but they have like their own cycles of development, and if you miss such a cycle, probably you have to wait 8 or 7 or 10 years even, and that's quite hard in the end. And so they even if they are really sustainable in their beliefs and in their commitment from the top, they have like own investment cycles, and to like shorten them or so, it's nearly impossible sometimes.
Okay. So Björn, maybe based on what Fabian just said, what resonates with you? What have you encountered this far, not only at EOS, so maybe also at your previous position? And are there some things you would like to add from your experience?
I think what was said with regards to the topic of commitment, that's very important, because there can be a lot of like bottom-up initiatives, but you will never get to something substantial if there's not a commitment really from the top management. And I was lucky enough to have a CEO at DHL who drove this topic, and even more now at EOS. I think the best case is that everybody is responsible at the end, and everybody thinks sustainability as the way we do the business. But the reality is that at least in the beginning, you need really strong commitment from the top. Then the second point was the customer is not willing to pay extra, and of course this is always a topic. But I mean, how I see my role is really being a translator, translating the things that we want to do on the sustainability agenda or on the green agenda into business cases for those people in the company who are maybe not interested in sustainability at all, or who do not know enough about this topic. And I found out that you need to speak, or as a sustainability officer, you probably need to speak different languages, and you have to be the translator to explain what is the business case of sustainability for this company. And it can be just on the risk avoidance side, because if you don't do it, then there's maybe a potential risk coming up. It can be on the financials or investor side, because even big companies like BlackRock now ask their investments, or the companies they're invested in, what they do about sustainability. But also smaller companies, they might, especially in the coming years, it might be more difficult to get money if you don't do anything on this. But it goes even down to, for example, HR. When we figured out that having a strong sustainability agenda and targets and doing something about this attracts young people to work for your company, even if they don't want to work in the sustainability area, but anywhere else. It's important for them to work for a company who's doing something about this. And that's interesting, and that's sometimes let's say business cases that many people maybe don't see at a first glimpse. And one thing I would like to add is that, especially in terms of, or especially for the topic of circular economy, I think one additional challenge that I see is that oftentimes there's also dependency, or this will add dependencies or connections that were not there before. You have to work more with maybe your suppliers or with your customers or even other companies to really do circular economy and to really make it happening. And this is sometimes something that's not so easy to do. You have to maybe synchronize your operations, or you have to change your supply chain. So this is not an easy task. I think what was also said was the convenience. So sometimes it's easier to do something the way you did it all the time than to change something. And also sometimes it's the user, I mean the end user or the customer. And one example is that for in my old job, you probably all know these yellow plastic boxes where the letters are being transported. And this is a circular system within Deutsche Post because it's only used to transport letters from A to B within the DP Deutsche Post network. But we have to produce more than, or they have to produce more than 20,000 of these boxes every year. Why? Because customers, people, users, whatever, they take them home because they're also very handy to put them in your basement and to store something in there. So that's an additional topic. And to also give you another example, and that's again on the more on the business case side. With DHL, we've been in touch with a big supermarket group. We were supplying them, and they said, look, you're delivering every day, and you're delivering, of course, a lot of cardboard where the products are in, and the next day it would be great if you can just take away the cardboard waste after delivering. And we had a circular economy team at DHL. They had a circular economy team. We connected them, but it was at the end not possible to find a way to work together because the supermarket expected us, or expected DHL to put away the waste for zero budget. And of course, on the DHL side, that was not a business case. So that's really, I think the main challenge really is to develop a circular solution that really then works from a business case perspective, but also works from a, let's say, dependencies perspective or cooperation between then the different companies. And again, I think what is needed is some kind of a translator and someone who can help with the change process to make this a reality.
I like the image of a translator here. I have to admit, I think it's a good point, because from getting from the agenda and the goals you have towards basically business cases, also from my experience, and a big challenge here. Andreas, what do you think? Is it for you, or would you agree with business cases or translating into business cases being a big part of being able to move towards a circular economy?
Yes, I mean, first of all, I can just agree with Björn. Sustainability officer are translators. You have to be a translator towards management, towards the employees, and that is very important to find the right words in the different situations, in the different meetings with different people at the table, and that is important, because you need the right foundation to make these business models. Because when we talk about circular economy, it is a team play, not just an internal but as well an external team play, and for this you need everybody in the boat. And when you don't have everybody in the boat, it won't work. So it is important to really implement the circular culture in your company, and that people understand that they have to think now differently, especially in the design phase, in the circular design phase, where everybody knows that here is the main challenge to really change materials and the sourcing and so on and so on. So that is one of the challenges. And then regarding one of the main challenges I had in this and in the translation was we have a long history in recycling, cross-divisional and between the plants, but as well as a part of our products. And I've got here this sample with me. So that is our window profiles, and inside you see the gray, and nobody can see it, but inside it's all recycling. It's all from old windows. So the people think, okay, yeah, we are the greatest, we are the best because we are doing recycling. But recycling is just one last part of the circular economy. Better would be to have a redesign at the end of this window, so use it maybe somewhere else. So the jump from having a mindset of recycling to circular economy is quite hard, and it's still not finalized here in my company or in the company where I work at Rehau, because it takes really time. And even for me, I would say it's about maybe 85% I understand circular economy, and when you understand 85%, you can develop new business models to a certain point, but you won't come to everything that's possible. That can be done. But in the end, circular economy is like an innovation management program. I've been as well like Björn in innovation management, and circular economy is a game changer. It's a new system. It's totally different from linear economy, and therefore there's a lot of different opportunities to come to these new business models. You know, Richard and Fabian, we have done workshops, and the first workshop that we did with BMI, it was very good, but it was just a starting point to actually implement and start to grow a very small plant in the head of our employees and the people that participated, to understand what we are meaning with circular economy, and to translate it again and again, and to bring it to a point where we can really develop business models where everybody has the same understanding of this topic. So it's, I always say it's a bottom-up and top-down strategy that you need. And the main challenge is to go through the clay layer, and that's the middle management.
Okay, yeah, true. It's we were coming back to cultural change, right? So people have to understand and accept these changes and go with them.
Yeah.
And have it from all the sides. So it's basically what we also see. So you have to educate people, not because they're not aware of it, but because it requires a different mindset, right? So from what you said, I would say, or I get the feeling that, okay, because due to your focus on recycling, you're already kind of closing the loop in basically, but it's then difficult to also think about reusing and refurbishment, etc., because you're so focused and you have your knowledge in that one part, and it's difficult for a company to change towards and also implement another one, right?
Yeah, but it's a big chance, because I mean, we are in business to business and B2B, and the use phase is something where we are usually not involved, but the use phase is so interesting for business modeling. And here we can do a lot, but you have to understand that you just don't want, or you just don't, you're not just a company that want back the old Windows, but there's as well a possibility in this use phase that is for Windows 30 or 40 years, and to be in contact and still in contact with the customers to maybe offer them interesting services for this use phase. And,
yeah.
But this is a totally different thinking, you know, because it's B2B. Usually you're not involved in that.
Yeah, true. So collecting the product after use is like 2 layers or 2 steps beyond your typical involvement, right? So that's difficult to come up. And then you're probably depending on partnerships or other companies, right?
That is another challenge for B2B, because you're not in direct contact with the end customer. It's a challenge, but as well a big chance, because you have the possibility to get in contact with these end customers, because you want this product back.
Yeah.
You want, as a producer, you say, I have the responsibility, I want to do something good out of it, I want to redesign it, you reuse it or whatever, and therefore I've got the possibility to contact this, to have the, to have it that it is used in the right way, to give the chance at the end of the lifetime to do something different with it. And that is really, from my point of view, it's really a big thing that I think a lot of people haven't understood so far when it comes to circular economy, what kind of really big chances is in this circular and closed loop thinking.
Yeah. As we see, there's a lot to do, a lot to change, and a lot to think about. So maybe Björn, what would you say could be some very first steps towards transitioning in a company? So because you have to start somewhere, right? With all the challenges up there. Do you have some input on that, or some ideas on some first steps?
Yeah, I think we partly said this already. I think the awareness needs to be there. And the commitment needs to be there, and the willingness to have a couple of people, maybe one, maybe a small team, to work on this topic and to raise the awareness and to showcase what is possible. And I think also what is needed is the openness to rethink your business model and to rethink maybe also your value creation or your revenue creation, and how you did before, and to then honestly not only talk about circular economy, because I also see there's a lot of talking about it, and there's lots of conferences, and there's lots of maybe even greenwashing on this topic, because everyone wants to use the term somewhere to be part of the game. But I think what's needed are real cases, and one way could be to think about the customer and to be even more customer centric. I mean, that's an important term, and that's an important objective of many companies. But I would question if all companies really are customer centric, if they're really thinking about what the customer wants and needs. And I think if you're honest to yourself, and if you answer that question honestly, and if you're considering to rethink your business model and your revenue creation, then maybe you're coming to a circular economy way of doing the business immediately, because it might be it might lead you in that direction immediately, because you're not selling a part that is thrown away potentially, but you're selling a service, for example, and by that you're responsible to take it back, or you want to have this as with a long lifetime, and things like that. So I think that could be a good starting point. And also I think what would be good would be to start small, not with the biggest project, and not include maybe the whole company, but to start small and to generate an understanding in the company, in the group, with your employees, to build business cases, and based on that then expand. I think this is a topic like every change project potentially, where you need to find your ambassadors, where you need to find your support, and I think starting small would be a good thing, and then expand. And I can give you one example from EOS. So we have one customer in the US, and they're using our machines to produce parts for their product. But they were not satisfied because they have a lot of waste. So they have a lot of waste from their process, a lot of polymer powder, which they cannot use because after it went through the machines a couple of times, it cannot be used to produce their part. But then together with them, we developed a way of using that powder for a totally different part of their product. And that's now getting interesting because they need much more of this used powder. And that's why we're now going to other end customers in the US and asking them, okay, can we buy back the used powder that would be waste for them, because we can use this for another customer put it into a different area of their production line to produce a second part. And this is something I think you need to talk with your customers. You need to understand what are their challenges, and you need to be, I think my main point is you need to be open. You need to have the awareness, and you need to be willing to rethink your business model as well.
I really love that example, because that's basically what we are trying to preach, is basically not just do something sustainably because you think it's good, but combine that or do it in do something your customer wants and needs, and do that in a sustainable and even circular way. So that's a very good example. That shows how you can scale from that, right?
Yeah, actually, I think that's more or less maybe the only way to do it. I mean, of course, you can also do philanthropic things, and we're also doing donations and stuff like that, and that's good and that's important. But the topic of sustainability, from my perspective, always needs to have a business case, because otherwise it's not really implemented in the company. And someone said this right in the beginning. There's always like the differentiation between the business, so the real thing, and sustainability, which is an add-on in good times if you have money to be nice, and that's, in my point of view, fundamentally wrong. Every company's strategy should be a sustainability strategy, because all aspects you need are in there already. And only if you put them together, you will be successful in the future. That's my strong belief. But for that, you need to have business cases, because otherwise, in times when business is not going so well, maybe in pandemic times, then the first thing what you would do is you would cut off the sustainability projects, because they're just an add-on. Yeah. But if they're implemented and if they're integral part of your business, and if you think sustainability, then this will not be cut off, because it will help you go through the pandemic and go through the bad times. But this is something where I think there's a lot of learning and a lot of change still needed, so that people understand this goes together, and that's again the translation. So how can we do the good things, but translate it into business cases, so that even those people who are not interested in the good things will nevertheless do it, because they're saving money or they're earning more money.
Yeah, true. So we're coming from the smallest beginning steps to the end goal, having it integrated in your company, not just as a side job or whatever, but integrated in all the business units, in the thinking, culture shift, and making money off of it, because that's basically, otherwise you wouldn't function, right? So maybe coming back to Fabian, and the first step. You've seen a lot of companies trying to introduce the circular economy. What have you seen, how companies have handled these first steps? Would you agree with what Björn has said about creating awareness, commitment, small teams, and then moving from talk to action? Are there other things you've seen companies do to achieve or to get to start in that area?
Yeah, I think it's a really valuable what Björn just said. I tried to add some other aspects we think are really important. So first of all, thinking in a network, or thinking in, if it's really sophisticated, in an ecosystem, in a circular ecosystem, as you showed and the last time, Richard, is really important to look at your partners, not in a classically in a sale and a buy position, so in a more interacting position all along at design. So that's what Andreas said before, thinking in a circular design, because it's really crucial. Is if the design doesn't fit, if you use probably mixed materials or other aspects, then probably recycling doesn't work or refurbishment doesn't work. And so it's really important to put the design in the middle of all your transaction with partners, with buyers, with your customers. So going along these design aspects, and then building around it a shared vision somehow, that you have to share your vision, not only within your company, that's what we talked before, with the commitment from the top and the bottom up initiatives, but also with your partners in your network. So if you don't share a common vision, so it's a nice example is Fairphone. where they talked a lot of with their producer of their phone parts, and so they had to look for the right producers, and if the producer it doesn't fit, probably you have to change the producer, and that's all what we saw in our textile ecosystem, wear to wear. We talked about this in another session half a year ago with the BMI lab. We saw that if probably the recycler has not the shared vision with the other partners, the recycling doesn't work with this partner. So you probably have to change the recycler, and that it's really good if your ecosystem or your network is somehow modular, that you can also like rearrange your partner relationship. What is also really important, I think, is you need an orchestrator or a group of employees or people who are or feel committed to the subject. If there is no human capital working on that, then you can forget about it. So, but it's for every change project, as Björn already mentioned, it's really important to have that. So if you think in the circular ecosystem, probably you come away from a competition belief more into a partner belief, where you're working together around one shared value proposition, and it makes it probably sometimes even easier if you are not depending on each other so hard, so that you can like work on a shared value proposition and create value out of it. I think this is really important. And last but not least, it needs some government pressure or government regulation in a right direction. So in Germany, the government is talking about recycling quotas, for example, and this make pressure for some companies even higher, and the pressure to act in the end. I think that's also important, because it's all an interaction between companies, the people, customers, but also with governments and legislation in the end.
Okay, thanks. So what I take from that is basically having a vision with your partners, or at least shared with your partners, to drive the cultural change maybe beyond your company, right? We've talked about how important cultural change is, but the companies you engage with have probably to agree with that and to come together on that. So it's all about interchange between the partners, and also picking the right partners for that, right? That offer or that can offer the right service or the right product handling for you there.
And it's exactly what Andreas said at the beginning. So the companies we worked with in the last 4 or 3 years, we saw that first we started talking with probably 1 or 2 guys, and then some others came and they developed their own beliefs and their own awareness all around circular economy and sustainability, and they brought it to other people. And in this home appliance company, for example, there was a marketing specialist at the table, and first he had no idea about circular economy, sustainability, and we start to talk and building awareness, and now he is head of sustainability in the company, and now helping to bring the first circular washing machine on the market somewhere. But it was like, it needed time, and it needed a lot of talking in the end, and that's sometimes a little dissatisfying or so, but yeah, you need a little bit, not only being Usain Bolt and running really fast quickly, so you need probably a little bit marathon thinking in the end.
Yeah, long term, right? Here we are again. So we have already received many questions from our audience, so thank you very much for that, and we will now go into these. So one was from Yannick Hengi. He was wondering what approaches are taken to educate and also convince employees to take the steps towards transitioning to circular economy business models, and how might that be done in a global perspective for the whole corporation. Maybe Björn as well as Andreas, maybe you can share your approaches there that you've done so far. Björn, maybe start, yeah.
Yeah, I think it all starts with awareness. So again, I think we discussed it already. So there needs to be awareness. There needs to be information about that. The employees should hear, see, and feel that also the management wants to do something there. And then, I mean, in the best case, it's just implemented in the daily business and in projects. And if that's not possible from the beginning, then I think you can also start maybe a bit softer or a bit slower and have a series of brown bag lunch and just invite a couple of speakers on this topic. Actually, this is also something that we are doing, not on this topic of circular economy, but on other topics. Yeah, to just generate interest. You know, you always have to start somewhere. You have to have a starting point, and then get people interested in this topic. And then I think if you manage to get them interested in the topic, and if they feel that the company itself and the management takes it seriously, then you have them convinced already. And if that's done in addition, if that's done with a business case because the customer is asking for it, or because you're saving resources and money, or you're getting new customers or something, I mean, that should be a no-brainer then at the end. And actually, it's a good summary of what we discussed before. If you do all that, what we discussed before, and if you have a check mark behind all of these points, then it should not be complicated to convince your employees to join in.
Okay. My answer is this here. First project, relevant for the people. So the recap, well known here in Germany, it's a funding system, and everybody who gets a coffee at a coffee bar and wants to take away will take this and will read, return, reuse, recycle. So it's a relevance, and I think that's the most important thing. It has to be relevant for the people, and it has to come from reactive to proactive. Reactive was to make a sustainability report. You do some ratings and rankings for your customers, and that's it. And proactive means you are relevant for your departments, for the divisions. This has to be done first of all top down. So you need some KPIs, you need some areas where you want to commit yourself, and then it has to go in the organization. And for this, you need small and big projects. And one for employees could be something like that, and others could be real projects and products that are then a business case in the department. What we have done in addition for the employees, we have implemented the Sustainable Friday. So every 2 weeks, we have a post in our daily, in our intranet for some topics on sustainability from different departments. So it's not, at the beginning, it was just me who was giving the ideas and giving as well the information on that. But now we have different departments, and as well from the operational side, who are posting here information and projects and what they're doing. And that makes a difference to what we have before. So it becomes relevant for the organization, and for this as well for the different players and stakeholders in the organization. So that is important. And for that kind of cultural change, you need a lot of communication. Therefore, sustainability officer means as well to be a communicator for inside and outside. I think that is important.
Yeah, the translator, right? Yeah, but I think the main point where what I take from that is basically that you need to ensure that employees and everyone in the company takes it serious, that you want to do that, and that they can rely on that, and that doing by small projects for employees or for others. And you touched on the point of KPIs, and I think that's also an important one, because companies are steered by KPIs, right? And if you do not have some in place that are targeted towards sustainability, it's difficult to measure and steer the company towards that, right? Do you have already some KPIs in place on your side, sustainable KPIs for the departments or overall for the company?
I mean, we have KPIs, and the challenge at the moment is we have KPIs for the group, for climate action, for circular economy, for diversity, and for sustainable growth. And now this has to be implemented in the divisions, so in the departments. What is their contribution to these group targets? And then it becomes relevant. We just said it before we started the session, where Björn said or talked about the pledge, the panel pledge that they are doing. So how can it be relevant to have diversity in project teams? And what are we doing to confirm that this is really done? And what are the pains and gains when we're doing it? And again, we have to be translator and bring it down to the operational part and say, okay, what does it mean It's not just that we have a quote for women or for whatever in certain teams, but we need as well the culture to ask for it and say, okay, we want it like that. And I think that's the most important point. And that's, again, the mindset. The mindset is the most important thing that you have to handle. The mindset. That's what you have to do.
Mindset, yeah, I get that. Okay, another question from the audience, from Martha Velasco. She asked, in your experience, did the introduction of circular economy principles bring more expenses or, by the contrary, savings to the organization? Björn, maybe you can say something about that.
Yeah, my quick and easy answer would be, if it not brings savings, then we would not do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, that's maybe, I don't know, that's maybe very short, but and that's also maybe not totally true, but at the end, this should be the way to do it. Of course, in the beginning, there might be projects that you introduce, nevertheless, there's no revenue coming out of that, or the return on invest takes longer than it usually takes. So there's sometimes there's a bit of investment costs involved, but I think, and that's okay as well. But I think in general, at least in the beginning, you should look at, you should try to find projects where there is a revenue and there is a benefit, or I mean, maybe not only revenue, but maybe also benefit in whatever other term, because that makes it easier to start that change process. And if other people in the company see, oh, okay, that's not just a nice circular economy project, and we can do some communications around that, but there's also a real benefit. Like, I mean, real benefit always means euro, or dollars or something for most people, then it's easier to do next projects like this. But of course, there might also be projects that have a longer lead time or longer time before this really kicks in. I'm not saying we should not do this, but the short answer would be look for the business case, and then it should be easy.
Otherwise, it's, I got it. A fine line, obviously, also between showing commitment by also tackling projects that are maybe not short-term gains, but also showing that there are projects and we benefit as a company from them to do it in a sustainable way. Okay, yeah.
On the time scale, it's always a benefit. The only thing is that we have to change again the mindset, because the mindset we've got in companies, even in family-owned businesses, is that we don't have the time scale of 10 years. We have time scales of 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 years. But on this time scale, just from the history of sustainability, how it evolved, how it was developed 300 years ago, it will always be a benefit. When you save money, when you save material resources, it has to be a benefit. Otherwise, something is wrong in the system. That's easy. Yeah. And we're talking about closed loops. So closed loops have to be a benefit, because you're not putting anything else inside.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
the goal, at least. So you have to aim for not. Yeah, exactly. So one more question, maybe from Max Rehberger. What is your opinion on the role of standardization activities for facilitating cooperation between companies? Is it rather fostering collaboration or slowing down innovative business cases? That's an interesting one, I think.
Maybe easy answer. Without collaboration, circular economy is not possible.
That's true, but he's talking about standardization in that case. So are standardization activities rather fostering collaboration or slowing down maybe innovative approaches?
When it comes to standardization of, for example, material, it's important, definitely. I have a project at the moment, and we want to do it in recycling, and we don't get the data sheet or the right specification for the material, because the one who's doing this recycling process is not capable of doing it. So but when we want to have a certain standard or certain characteristics of the product, we need it. So but a lot is going on in this, and especially here, maybe for the audience. What I know here from internal, people think, standardization takes like 3, 4, 5 years. I can tell you it can be in 1 year, even at the German Dean Institute. So when somebody in your technical department is coming up saying, no, it will take, we'll take our time. Okay, that is the past. The present is in 1 year it's possible. I know it's at the moment taking place in Germany and Berlin. So times are changing. Disruptive times have as well disruptive dean processes.
I would like to add, I agree with Andreas. It's important, and because I mean it's important for products, it's important for calculations, it's important for reporting, and there's still so many challenges where it's so complicated because we don't have standards. And we don't do it in the same way, and quite some history in the logistics industry, also supporting standards. I was part of the greenhouse gas protocol team and other things, and it's really complicated, but it's worth doing it. I think it's a good example where even competitors could work together, because this is something where let's say the problem or the challenge is so big that one company alone cannot solve it. So it makes totally sense, even for competitors, to join forces and to work together on this, and so that makes their life easier for both of them. Even afterwards, of course, they're competing again. But this is a good example for cooperation, I think, in the industry, but also cross-industry, and also with public stakeholders as well. And I think that there's a lot still to do, and it's absolutely necessary from my perspective.
Yeah, maybe I can also add that we are looking into battery recycling right now, and here it's quite the same. I mean, on the one hand side, and Andreas said it's faster now, but it's still taking time to standardize certain things. But only then you enable other business models, because disassembling batteries right now is very, very difficult because there are no standards. Everyone is doing it their own way, and that makes it a hurdle at the reuse part and the repurpose part, and that without proper standardization coming into play, you cannot profitably handle that. That's maybe an important thing I would also add there. When you look at certain projects right now and the business case doesn't make sense right now, maybe it does in 1 to 2 years, depending on the change in environment, right? So you should keep these ideas in mind and don't stop them at all. Okay, so we're at the finish line now. Maybe we can have one more question from the audience, which is from Richard as well. The most difficult thing is to explain that the circular economy requires the acceptance of benefit sharing, so between suppliers, producers, and customers. Would you agree, and how do you think you could achieve that in the future? Maybe also Fabian has some ideas there. Maybe so basically, well, what I see, and I could add to that, is that I think it is right, because that's a change in mindset here. If you look at it from an ecosystem perspective, it has to make sense for everyone. But oftentimes you choose suppliers and partners and also recyclers who basically benefit from what you intend to do anyways. So it's more of a win-win situation. It should be anyways, because if you start to design a product that is being able to be reused and or refurbished, and you have refurbishing partners, it's added value for them because they can refurbish a product that they didn't have before. I think it's from my point of view and from our project so far, and oftentimes not that much of an issue to have added value for everyone, as long as you move outwards and think about what would be better for customers, and in the end, the customer of your customer is also your customer, maybe, right?
Okay, can I add something?
Yeah, please.
I learned a couple of years ago from Viva Con Agua, some of you might know them, the term all profit. All profit, all with profit, not just win, 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 but all profit. I think that is a quite nice term regarding this, and all profit means as well, we have to come away from this vertical direction, we have to come to a horizontal direction. Horizontal means that we are on one table and we have the circular there, and we're talking about the business, we're talking about the project, we're talking with the OEM, we're talking with the suppliers, we're talking with maybe stakeholders from outside, from the region where the plant is and whatever. And that is a change in mindset again that we need in circular economy and as well in sustainability. And the vertical thing, that is something what we can say, but I can say from as an automotive supplier, and we are quite a big automotive supplier for OEMs here as well in Germany, but internationally, there's a change in mindset coming from the OEMs regarding that, because they know it's not possible to have carbon neutral in the supply chain when they're not talking to their people, and when they're giving as well, especially to smaller suppliers, their knowledge and their expertise in certain things. And that is important. It takes some time because it's something that is unusual and you don't know really what to do and how can we handle it. And as a supplier, say, oh, there's a big OEM, what can I do? But this is something that really is important. The horizontal, more horizontal, less vertical at the moment. That is a shift that is required to be on the ice, you know, on the right, not like getting out, but on the same level.
Yeah, Fabian?
I think what is also really important to mention is we talked now 1 hour about culture, about how can we change from an employee perspective, but we haven't talked so much about technology. So what is really interesting that in all the interviews I did so far, that technology is really not doesn't have a really high priority, or in other way to say that culture is a more hindering aspect towards change, so that a lot of technologies are there. They're not standardized probably, or we don't know how to handle the technologies with partners, but we can use these technologies that are already there and create new solutions. So circular economy somehow is nothing new. 200 years ago, circular economy was a normal thing for everybody. So repairing, refurbishment, that was all there. So, but we lost it a little bit, how to deal with that kind of easy technology. So we created a really complex world, and now we have to divide it out and doing more standardized products and come back to probably a little bit also expectation management somehow. So I like Andreas' example. So why should a pipe always be white? Why is it not gray or has another color? So it is really important there. So it has a lot to do with expectations towards technology in the end.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So now we are over the time. Maybe as a wrap up, a last question to all of you. If you had just one wish or a change for free, right? What you could magically maybe fix some of the problems right now to make the circular economy work better, what would you change if you could just change something? Yeah, maybe Andreas can start.
I would do a World Cafe in the nature with all our employees and stakeholders from outside.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the nature you find circular economy that is circular, and when you bring people in a different situation, in a different environment, they will change very, very quickly their mindset in this situation, and they have a starting point from this mindset, from this experience, to start in their business.
Great, very concrete, right? Björn, you have one wish? What would you wish for?
I mean, I can wish for everything, right? That's how okay, so I would wish for a time travel 10 years into the future, when circular economy is more or less fully implemented everywhere. And people, I would take the most skeptical people with me, and they could see how great and beautiful and fantastic everything looks like.
Very good.
And they travel back and they make sure that this is the future we get.
I like that. I like that, yeah. That's good. And maybe Fabian, your wish?
A really practical wish. I hope that raw materials are a little bit more valuable, or that in other terms that the prices get up, so that raw materials getting it's not so easy to buy them as it's today. So like a little bit more regulation or governmental change, I hope.
So about integrating negative externalities into the prices.
Higher prices for raw materials.
Yeah. Okay. That could also be a trigger for that. Okay, then thank you very much for participating today. I think we could go on and talk many more hours, but we are beyond schedule now. So thanks for participating, Björn, Andreas, and Fabian. Thanks for your insight. I very much appreciate that you took the time and shared your experience with us. And to the audience, thank you for taking part, for joining us today. If you have more questions about the topic, reach out to me or to Björn, Andreas, or Fabian on LinkedIn. Here you can feel free to add them, I say in their words or in their names. And then last but not least, stay tuned for our next webinar. We will talk about it shortly. And in addition, if you want to learn more about it, we have a circularnavigator.com website where you can sign up for a newsletter to stay up to date with upcoming webinars. As I said, it's a third part of the series now. We will move forward with interesting topics and to talk more in depth about this. And if you're interested, we have also for the German audience in November a virtual circular economy workshop upcoming, where our goal is to design and get into new circular economy ideas and design these ecosystems. So that's from our side. Thank you very much for taking part, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all at the next webinar. Have a nice day, and bye-bye.
Thanks, Richard. Bye-bye. Thanks, Fabian. Bye-bye.
Bye.